I'm gonna leave that in the video because I literally just woke up still in the bed. But the energy is there to finish out the videos for my book, and so I'm gonna flow with that energy. And in the meantime, I'm going to be taking out my hair. So yesterday I recorded the video of me straightening my hair after I had taken it out of the twist. Today is September 17th, so yesterday was the 16th. And so I decided to put it in these braids so that it'll be like a little bit wavy when I take it out, and then I'll probably like put it up in a bun or style it some other kind of way, because even with it being straight, the waves are not going to last in that humidity. We're still in like very much summer weather, and my hair just does not do humidity. It will poof up. It may last a little bit longer because it's straight, but yeah. So I'm gonna take out my hair, and I want to talk about this next topic, which is everything aligns. We have to stay humble. And I find that every time I tell you guys what the title of it is going to be, I kind of find myself censoring the conversation. Whereas yesterday when I did that video, I didn't know what the title was going to be. I was just talking, and then realized, oh, this would be perfect for that title. So I think I'm just going to pretend like I didn't give you guys the title, and I'm going to find a place to begin the conversation. I think the place that I want to start is I remember when I was still living at home, and I think it was during that I mentioned it during the mental one of the mental health videos, like the process mental health, something like that. I did a part 1 and a part 2. In one of those videos, I mentioned that as I was interacting with my mother those last couple days, my conscience, or that little voice, kept telling me, give her what she wants. And I was being stubborn. I didn't want to give her what she wants because I was not willing to let go of the past and of what had just happened in that second. Because it's not like, I'm still worked up about things that happened years ago. I'm worked up about what happened 5 minutes ago, what your energy is right now. Like, and I'm tired of being the bigger person. But I'm starting to realize that it can't always be everybody else. And also, maybe, even if it is everybody else, let's just entertain that for a second. It is everybody else. I'm perfect. I'm not the one that has the problem. I'm not the one that's making this harder than it needs to be. Okay, fine. Even if that is the case, what is so hard about giving people what it is that they want? And so I had to sit and I had to think about it. With my mom, it's for a different reason. It's because I've tried that and it hasn't worked. And so I've been given opportunities to practice that with other people. And I just keep making excuses of why I can't do it. Because there was a point in my life where I did give people what they wanted, and people were a lot more receptive to me. I never came in situations where it's just like my reality was a lot different. Like, I was lucky, like, I always had great opportunities. People were always very nice to me. People would walk up to me on the street just out of nowhere and want to have a conversation. Like, I just had a very different reality. Like, the way that people interacted with me was very different. The way that situations came into my life was very different. I wasn't really suffering. Like, other than, and this was like when I was a teenager. I'm trying to see if, yeah, it's a little bit. My hair is just not, it's not having it. And I cut off a lot more than I thought I did. Um, but yeah, so I found myself like thinking a lot about what was it about me when I was younger that just made me so lucky, made me so able to manifest things very quickly. Like whatever I wanted during that time, I could have it. I was never worried about not having an opportunity. I was never worried about things not working out in my favor. Like I just always got my way. And lately, like maybe in the last 3 or 4 years, I've been really thinking, maybe in the last, like, ever since Soul Ra and I got together, and I'm feeling like maybe he might be my twin flame. Um, and I said what I said in the other video about him, but and that's for other people. Like if I were somebody else, I wouldn't trust him. But obviously, what's going on here? This needs to be clipped off. There's a little end that I missed. Um, Obviously, I said that other people shouldn't deal with him because, everything I said was true, but it's like when we're dealing with each other, it's a different type of situation. For other people, they're um, they're gonna get pulled into karma with him. For me and him, it's we react to each other very differently. So anyway, ever since my relationship with him, I've really been thinking about like what was it about my personality when I was younger that really just made life easier. It's the best way to put it. And it was the fact that I was myself. I was very open with people. I gave people what they wanted. I gave people what they wanted. And I think that it brought up a fear in me because giving people what they wanted makes people want you. And I found myself in situations where people that I didn't really want to be around liked me and wanted to be around me. And I didn't want that. So I was like, maybe if I purposely do things to push them away, they'll, not want to be around me. And then what happened was I started attracting people who had abandonment issues, and I started attracting people who react the opposite way. When you do things to push them away, they just come at you harder. And so, like, started attracting the narcissists and all that kind of stuff. And so, either way, I wasn't getting the results that I was looking for. And so, this thought of give them what they want keeps popping back up. Like it was on my mind this morning during my meditation. When I first got up, I tried to meditate. I don't really meditate like the traditional way. Sometimes I do, but I find that when I do, it like I just don't like it. I just maybe it's that I can't sit still. I don't like sitting still, but I can sit still. It's just I don't know. Something about the traditional way of meditating just doesn't resonate with me. So sometimes I'll just like lay in bed with my eyes closed and just, let the thoughts come and I observe them and you know, and I have that conversation with myself, and that's kind of meditating for me. And so this morning, that thought came back up, give them what they want. And I started thinking about yesterday and that experience that I shared with you guys. And I started thinking about, okay, if you had given that person what they wanted, would it have been a different outcome? Would he have called the police on you? Would you have moved out under the circumstances that you had to move out on? Would you have felt that vibe from him that you felt? Would things still have been the same? And so that was the question that I asked myself, and I was kind of going back and forth and trying to really think about it. And for him, and then I also thought about like how I mentioned that God puts us on assignments sometimes, and sometimes we're there to help people. And was the way that I was helping people the right way, to so to speak? There's another thing that I wanted to say. Not necessarily the right way, because you guys know I don't believe in right or wrong, but was I going about my assignments in a healthy way, in a loving way, in a way that was worthy of blessings, in a way that was worthy of me being lucky? And if I'm being honest, no, because younger Rashida would have recognized in that person, I'm talking about the guy from yesterday, younger Rashida would have recognized in that person that he was lonely, that he was hurting, that he was missing his father, because he did mention that his father had passed away. And he said that I reminded him a lot of his father. And so just recognizing the pain in him, and not because I wanted to punish him for how he came at me initially. Because everything was fine. Like, I don't go into a new relationship or a new experience with somebody, automatically just treating them a certain way. I'm open at the beginning. But as soon as they do one thing that kind of is like, whoa, what is that? I shut down and I, punish. And I want to punish them. I want to push them away. So I think I did not fully forgive him for what happened on the date. And even though he did apologize and I did accept his apology, I still was treating him according to that. And so when he shared with me, what he was going through, I think the assignment was actually to comfort him and to just be there for him and to just have a friendship with him. And he was mentioning that that's what he wanted. But I was worried. I was afraid that if I was like open with him, and if I did, talk to him, and if I did build a relationship with him, that he was going to get the wrong impression and it was not going to be a safe situation for me. And what ended up happening was it still ended up not being a safe situation. So I think the lesson in that was not what I thought it was. I think the actual lesson is stop trying to control every situation, and stop trying to, basically control every situation, and stop trying to impose what you think a situation is going to turn into, and just let it flow. Because if that is something that was not meant to go the distance, God is going to provide a situation and get you out of it right in the nick of time. Like, I remember being very young, and I would be in situations where it could have been really bad, and something happens to where I'm saved right. I avoid that situation right in the nick of time. And it was because I was operating out of complete faith. I was operating completely in my nature, in who it is that I was, that I am. Like, I was just, fully invested in the assignment and fully being who I am and not trying to control the outcome and not trying to make sure that I don't get hurt. That's not my job. My job is not to make sure that I don't get hurt. That's the universe's job. That's the Most High's job. That's God's job. Whoever we're giving the credit to. That's my highest self's job. My highest self has already manifested pristine opportunities for me. It's never going to put me in a situation to where I'm going to be in harm's way. So I have to trust that. And even though things have happened to me, it was because I was not, it's my fault in a sense. It's because I was not operating. Every time that something has happened to me and I really felt like, you know, why did I have to go through that? Like I really felt the negative effects of a situation was because I wasn't completely open to that situation. I didn't completely surrender to it. I didn't completely give everything that I had. Because with that guy, okay, let's say maybe I was open or maybe I did give or whatever, and he still, I would have been protected. And he still like tried me. Like, let's say he tried to come into my room at one point. I honestly, like, if I really sit down and think about it, that energy is created when you try to deprive somebody of something and now they're desperate for it. They want it so badly that they're going to break into your bedroom to get it. If I were offering that willingly, guilt, shame would have stopped him. His conscience would have stopped him. He would have thought, damn, like this girl, she's been, so kind to me. She's been open with me. Like we can have conversations. I like the protective energy, the I want to keep this woman safe energy would have come out of him if I were more open and more loving and more nurturing towards him, because that's what he was looking for. He was looking for nurturing energy. He was looking for a friend. And I didn't want to be that because I knew deep down inside, like I knew these things about him, like he shared certain things with me, and I knew that this was not somebody that I wanted to be in a long-term relationship with. So to me, like I guess the logic behind it was, if I don't want to be in a long-term relationship, why give him the impression that I do? And so, and also, if I'm being honest, deep down, the most naive form, the most innocent form of Rashida does believe that people can change. And I believe that love changes people. I believe acceptance changes people. I believe that I have the power to change people through my purity, through the way that I interact with people on my when I'm in my purest form. And so when I was younger and I would interact with people, I could have been dealing with the most terrible guy who has done the most terrible things, but he never reacted to me in those ways. He never showed me that side of him because he would be embarrassed. He would be ashamed. He like that part of him just was never, it just doesn't come out. So I hope I'm explaining this in a way to where it makes sense. It's almost like your feminine nature is what protects you when you're dealing with men. You don't need to act in a masculine way. That just makes them act in a masculine way. And then it causes all of these negative effects. It brings out the narcissists in people. It brings out all of the trauma and the negative and the negativity out of people. And when you behave fully in your feminine nature, it brings out the protector in men. It brings out the other side of men that we are taught that exists in them. So it's kind of like the protection is built in as long as you are standing in your truth. And that's true even with my mom, because I remember, what trip did I come back from? When I had just come back from Jamaica, and I spent mostly every day while I was in Jamaica swimming and meditating and just spending a lot of time alone and just really reconnecting with my purest, most innocent self, and just, just like I said, laying in the hammock, swimming every day. Every day was mine to do with whatever I wanted. And just, being in my creative space and just fully like living the way that I had always dreamed of living. That's how I was living when I was in Jamaica. And so when I came back, I came back with that energy. I came back with that vibration. And I remember like the interactions with my mom were the best that they had ever been. And I got a lot of gifts for my birthday that year. Like, just a lot of things were different. A lot of interactions with people were different because my energy was different. I came home and I was like cooking and I was making pizza and I was, you know, doing all of these different things and just bringing people in and not caring about whatever energy there was there before, just kind of, you know, just being my nurturing, lovey, like just lively self. And that just kind of awakened everybody around me and brought out the best in them. And then I think I went back to work and I just kind of reverted back to who I was. And so I'm realizing like working brings out the masculine side of me. It brings out all of the masculinity, and that causes me to have certain interactions with people that are not in alignment with what it is that I want. And so I have to be humble and I have to say, like, every situation is not always me above everybody else. And so maybe what that guy said to me, like, you think you're better than everybody, that's why you're having problems. That was the truth. That was the truth. And the way that I was thinking about it, being defensive and whatever, and that whole video that I made behind it was me not being humble. But now that I'm in a humble space, what he said was the truth. That is why I'm in confrontation with people, because people will tell me things and I judge them. Like, I've been to jail before. They trusted me enough to share that with me. And I know deep down inside that people can change. And I know deep down inside that even though you've gone to jail, it doesn't mean that you can't be something else. You can't evolve. You can't become something else. It's just a mistake. I've made mistakes. I'm not perfect. And so low key, I was judging people and I was pushing off that I do think I'm better than people. And so it was the truth. What he said was the absolute truth. And I wasn't ready to hear it, or I wasn't ready to look at it for what it was. And then so out of that, out of me trying to deny that I actually do think that I'm better than people, I actually do judge people. I actually do condemn people for what they've done in the past and try to hold that over their head. And it's all done out of fear because, like I said, at my core, I know that people can change. I have like the most faith, I have the most belief in people. I can see people for their most beautiful selves. But because of fear, because of things that I've gone through in my life, I just kind of lost sight of that. It just kind of went to the wayside. And experiences just kept compacting and piling up on each other. And then it just got to the point to where I started believing my own lies about what destruction or what what chaos was born out of that. And then so making my way back around to my natural state is what this process has been all about. And I know that I'm on the other side of it. I keep saying that. I've been saying that for like the last year or so. But I really do think I'm on the other side of it. And I'm gonna try. I'm really gonna make an effort to let people in and to give them what they want. Give them what they want. What's coming up for me right now is like random, but I'm sure it has some sort of connection. I'm sure I will find a way to connect it. But I do want to mention it. When I was in high school, there was a church that I was a part of, and I would go faithfully every Sunday and every Wednesday. And I remember one time, I think the pastor had called us all up to the pulpit to be prayed for or something. There was this young man standing right beside me, and I was given a message to give him. And the message was loud and clear, and he was standing right beside me crying, and I could tell he was in pain. I could tell that like what it was that I needed to say to him was important and what he needed. But I was afraid to say it because I was afraid he would lash out at me. I was afraid that he wouldn't want to receive what it was. Why am I getting emotional? And I didn't say it to him. That was more than 10 years ago, and I still remember that. It was just basically a word of like encouragement, like, because I could tell he was going through pain. And I didn't give him that word. And I hope he's okay. Acting like now. Maybe that was just something for me. And hopefully, what I needed to tell him wasn't so important that it completely changed the outcome for him that I didn't say it. I hope everything is fine, even though I didn't say it. But just thinking about that, like how fear can really change our reality. How it can really bring us further and further away from the things that we're destined for. How it can really bring us further and further away from our purpose and what it is that we're here to accomplish. Everything that comes into our reality is in alignment with some part of who we are, some part of what it is that we've done, some part of what it is that we've spoken and how we've interacted with other people. So when others, I've said this before, but I really want to drive it home. When others come into our life and we want to sit there and blame them and call them a narcissist and point out all the negative things about them and say that they did this and they did that to me and it wasn't, I did nothing to them. It's not true. It's a lie that we have been telling ourselves. The lie that you've been telling yourself, it's a lie that I've been telling myself. And there are lies that that person tells themselves too. And that's why we're all in the same reality together, because everything aligns. There are millions, billions of people on this planet. Every person that you come into contact with is not by coincidence, it's on purpose. There's a reason why that particular person is there. There's a reason out of all the billions of people, that person is in your face. That person has your attention. And to belittle that truth, to disrespect that by saying, oh, well, you're not good enough to be in my space. You made it past all these billions of people and all of these other things that I ignore, and you have my attention, but you're still not worthy. You're still not good enough. Where do we get that from? Fear. Fear. We can say our parents taught us that and that's where it comes from. And yeah, it is. But where did they get it from? And where did they get it from? And where did they get it from? It all comes from fear. It all comes from a lack of humility, a lack of understanding that we're all going through things. We're all trying to figure this out. And one person's experience or one person's mistakes don't make them any better or less better or more better or whatever than anybody else. We've all, like, there's some things that I've done that somebody, if I can think of the worst thing that a person can do, like let's say somebody killed someone, right? A murderer. There is something that I have done that the murderer could judge me for. I'm judging him for being a murderer, but if he found out have some of the things that I've done, he could say, I would never do that. He can judge me. And so at the end of the day, what is that really? Who is that benefiting? What good things are coming from that? Nothing. It's just perpetuating fear, perpetuating negativity, perpetuating the devil's work. However we want to say it, it's all the same thing. It is all in alignment. Because I remember when we were having a conversation, we were on the beach, and he said that he had been addicted to drugs. And that is a huge trigger for me because I've been involved with people who have been addicted to drugs. And he was like, I don't care if you want to judge me or whatever. It is what it is. It's what I've gone through in my life. And, he said that he had gone through it because after his father died, he just didn't have a way to cope. And he trusted me enough to open up to him. And what did I do with that information? I used it to judge him. I used it to condemn him rather than using it to understand him, rather than using it to find a way to comfort him. And I don't think I did that because I thought I was better. Cause I could feel like I understood, and I know he could feel that like I wasn't really judging him. Because underneath the judgment is not the root cause. The root cause is fear. Everything else is built on top of that: judgment and shame and blah blah blah, all of the other stuff. Fear is what is at the root of all of these things. Fear is what all of the negativity grows out of. And so it was really me afraid that because I knew of someone who did something bad to me that was on drugs, or because I know that people who are on drugs steal and they do all these bad things, I was projecting that onto him. and and excusing it by saying that's not something that I want to be a part of. So I'm going to hold you at arm's length. And it's kind of like whatever was, and then so like I just missed out on what that could have been. What could it have been? Because it definitely wouldn't have been him calling the police on me and me having to move out and all of the negative energy that was between us as we were living in the house together. Like, it definitely wasn't going to be that still. What could it have been if I was just open to what it could have been? If I was just open to the unknown, if I was just open to, okay, whatever this blossoms into, instead of saying, oh, I know what this is going to blossom into. I know who he is. I know what he, I know what my intuition is telling me. Instead of doing all of that, just, okay, tuning out all that noise and just giving him what he wants. Not the sex, but because even that is a symptom of what he was really looking for, which was a friend. A hug, confirmation, acceptance, love. And that could be shown without the sex. I didn't have to react in that kind of way that I did. I could have just said, like, I'm not going back to your place, but, let's go for a walk. Let's see if we can find a park or something and go sit down and just talk. Let's, you know, I could have made some other suggestion that where he could have gotten what he needed, because he even didn't. And I've been in situations where I didn't even know like what I actually needed, and somebody gave that to me. Then I was like, wow, that's what I needed. I didn't even know that I needed that. That hasn't happened in a really long time, but I remember that happening a lot when I was younger. That's what love is. That's what it truly means to love. You genuinely get what you put out. And so if we're getting all these negative things, it's because we're putting out all these negative things. And our stress creates more negative situations for us. And also, there was a video that I made about I went in a restaurant and there was somebody in there and she kind of like reacted to me in a way, but I want to use another example. So, I was listening to a podcast. I was listening to Princella's podcast and I guess it was kind of loud because I had my headphones on. I was listening to it and I guess it was loud and the other people around me heard it. And I went in there and I ordered my food and I'm sitting there waiting patiently, listening to my podcast. But everybody around me is just on like some like real negative vibe, basically. And I'm just like chilling, listening to the podcast or whatever. And they just kept like reacting or whatever to the point to where I got in a confrontation with this woman because she said that I had an attitude with the person who was giving the food. But to me, I'm just standing there minding my business. And it didn't hit me until like a while, like until last week or something like that, of what was really happening. Because I was listening to that podcast and the energy surrounding it, that's the energy that I attracted into my life without even realizing that that's what was happening. Because I'm like, this is not how people react to me on a normal basis. Like, I'm literally in the restaurant cussing this girl out because of something that I don't even know how it even came about. Like, I literally, like, we're going back and forth. I hope nobody recorded that. But, like, and I'm like, what is going on? And actually, ever since I came across her podcast and I was listening to her, Abby, that was happening a lot. I was in this like angry, aggressive, like I'm gonna fight against everything kind of energy right as soon as I started listening to her. And then lately, maybe like the last couple weeks, I stopped listening to her and my interactions with people have been a lot more positive. Like yesterday, I went into Popeyes to order the chicken wings. Don't judge me, judge your mom. But listen, God's working with me every day, and at some point, I will get it together when it comes to my eating habits. But I don't know. I just feel like I deserve to have chicken wings, fried chicken when I want. Why not? We're here to enjoy life, not not be miserable. So, and even with that, like I want to circle back around to the whole eating thing. And we're talking about energy and how it aligns. And so, I'll finish my story about that and then maybe I can remember to come back around to the eating. But dang, I forgot about what I was talking about. Okay, so I stopped listening to Princella and I've been like, yeah, so yesterday I went in the Popeyes and I was eating, I ordered my food because initially I thought that it was because I was in restaurants where I shouldn't have been. And so that's why the energy was coming because it was like, you shouldn't be eating this food anyway. And of course, the energy is going to be negative because you're in a space where negative food, like that's where I thought that the negative energy was coming from because I was already in a restaurant where I shouldn't have been in the first place eating. And then, of course, this is a sign that I shouldn't be here. That's what I thought it was. And maybe that is what it is. Maybe all of it is connected. Most likely it is. So, like, the fact that I'm listening to Princella and she's on that energy makes me want to eat at these bad restaurants. And then when I'm there, I'm attracting people who are on that same frequency that she's on. And so maybe that's what's happening. But yesterday, ever since I stopped listening to her and I've been back listening to Londrell's music and I've been back listening to Spiritual Tony. Shout out to Spiritual Tony. Oh my God. His music. There's not one song of his that I cannot listen to. Like his music goes off. It goes hard. Like, really, if you are into spiritual music, if you're into like conscious music, definitely go check out Spiritual Tony. Landrell is more on the side of like feminine stuff, like more emotions. Like if you're going through something, he's a good person to listen to. If you need motivation or if you just need like a confirmation, like like just the vibe, listen to Spiritual Tony, Free Soul, Lava, all of these people, amazing. Anyway, I've been listening to a lot of that lately, been back on my playlist, and I've been listening to Hardly Initiated. That's a podcast with these two guys. I absolutely love them. And so, and then I just recently, the Tyler Perry podcast that I was listening to, the interview is on Crystal Renee's podcast. I didn't even know she had a podcast. It just popped up in my algorithm because I've been watching Sisters and Zatima. And so her podcast popped up. There's a couple episodes on there that I want to watch. So because I've been changing what I've been consuming, when I went in the Popeyes yesterday, still the same. This is why I'm thinking like maybe it's not the food. It just is like what I'm actually consuming into my body. And then the food, like you can, I truly believe that whatever you speak over your food, and then you consume it, you can control that. But when somebody is speaking to you, that goes directly into your consciousness. But your food can be programmed. People think that other people program the food. No, before you put it into your mouth, you can program it. So I really think that you can really eat whatever you want as long as you're programming it correctly. Because you are actually doing the action of putting it into your body. Whereas when you're listening to something, you're not really controlling how it's coming in. Like you're not going like this when you're listening to something. You're completely open to that process. Whereas when you're eating, you have to actually pick the food up and put it into your mouth. So it's like your energy is programming it naturally as you're putting it into your mouth. Whereas when you're listening to other people's words, that's fully what they want you to think. And that's why it's so important. That's why there's so much. That's why Tyler Perry said what he said yesterday in the interview. What we're consuming on social media it is impacting us on a subconscious level, even if we think that it's not. Because I said yesterday in the video that I really think that it's not, but it is. It is. Even if we think it isn't. It is to an extent because I still did have some sort of awareness about it. But now I'm realizing, because I thought like I could just listen to it and be okay. And I guess I can if I'm conscious while I'm listening to it that this is what the energy is. But if I'm just like unconsciously listening, like how, just, riding the bus or whatever and listening in an inactive state, then that's going straight into my brain. Whereas if I'm listening actively, that's the word I'm looking for. If I'm passively listening, that's going straight into my brain. If I'm actively listening, then I can pick and choose what it is that I want to listen to and what I don't want to listen to, what I want to seep into my consciousness and what I don't want to seep into my consciousness. So just being aware of that, and then so people can be trained to think in those ways. And that kind of gave me the answer. I was asking, like, how can we teach people be more active when you're listening to things? Don't just listen as you're driving your car. Be careful what you're listening to when you're driving your car. So when you're listening to things passively, as far as like, listening to an audiobook while you're driving your car, doing your dishes, or when you listen to music, when you clean your house, stuff like that. Anything that you're listening to passively, be very mindful of what it is. Make sure that it's something positive. Make sure that it's something that's going to help you maybe improve whatever situations, whatever. Make sure that it's something positive. when you're listening passively. Now, when you're listening actively, that's when you can listen to the more controversial things, because then you can pick and choose what you're letting in. And just practice that a little bit, you know? There's always room for more practice. There's always room for more understanding, for more, a deeper level of understanding, a deeper level of truth. And so, thank you. Thank you, Spirit, for that. All right. So, where are we at in the conversation? So that's kind of like what was going on. So I didn't even get to, I'm going back and forth. I didn't even get to like what happened. So I got in the Popeyes, and when I walked in, people were arguing. Like, this man behind the counter was arguing with these two girls about something. But as soon as I walked in, like, the energy just kind of went all the way down. Like, it was up here when I walked in. They was like in each other's face, and he like came from behind the counter and was like, "What y'all trying to do?" I was like, "Oh my goodness, I need to go." And then like within a minute or two, the energies just changed and they left. And then I placed my order and everything went smoothly, and nobody had an attitude with me. And I was able to be like, nice and, offer a compliment to my cashier. And then there was a woman that walked in, and she was like, she placed her order, whatever. And she saw that I had been standing there for a while. And she was like, "Have you placed your order yet?" And I was like, "Yeah, I placed my order, whatever." I was listening to something too. What was I listening to? I think I was listening to Spiritual Tony. I was listening to some kind of conscious music, maybe my playlist or something. And she was like, "Yeah, and just the vibe was different. The energy in there was different. It was like, as soon as I walked in, I brought a different kind of energy in there. And everything just kind of aligned and attuned to whatever frequency it was that I was on. And so that just goes to show how things align. You have to be conscious. This is all manifestation. We have to be conscious of the frequencies that are around us and how they're impacting us and how we can impact them to get whatever results it is that we're looking for. The only reason I would listen to someone like Princella is to gain an understanding of how people are suffering and a better understanding of how to help them. I wouldn't just passively listen to her ever again. That was a mistake that I did. Because her words are poison. Because it's coming from a hurt place. It's coming from a misaligned place. It's coming from fear. It's coming from all the things that have happened. And she is, that's why I said it's a little bit extreme, because some of the things, it's her truth. It is true, the things that she's saying. They are true. It's not untrue. But the energy is not something that we should be passively listening to. It's something that we should actively listen to and think of ways that we can change, we can create change. Because she does bring up some excellent points that should be given attention, but we can't allow that energy that is being presented with to seep into our consciousness. And so, just maybe you don't listen to Princella, maybe you listen to somebody else who's very angry. Just be mindful. You probably listen to them. You probably think like you're ignoring the anger, and you're listening to them for the information that they're giving. But just be present. Actively listen if that's what you're listening for the information. Actively listen to the information. Don't allow that angry spirit to come into you. And if it does bring up something within you, reflect. Think about, okay, what is in me that's resonating with this? I want to mention, um, I think I have mentioned this before, and I said in the last video that I didn't want to talk about him anymore, but I I have to. Like there's no choice in it. Like I have to. There's a reason why, of all the billions of people on this planet, he came into my life, and then of all the people that have come into my life, why I feel the way that I feel about him in particular. And so that's what I wanted to say about the food situation. When him and I were together, I think I've said this before, I have. I don't remember in which video, but when him and I were together, I didn't want to eat unhealthy. I didn't want to do anything that was not healthy, that was not positive, that was not in alignment with my highest self. Just naturally, all of those urges to do all of that stuff just went away. My tendency to judge people for what they've done and what they've been through went away with him. He shared a lot of things with me, and I shared one thing last time in the video about him being like having a tendency to like younger people, like him kind of being a pedophile. Me even knowing that about him, I couldn't even judge that. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. Because at its highest form, he's not a pedophile. There were some things in play that would definitely suggest that, but he's not. And being with me gives him the strength that he needs to fight against whatever demon or whatever possession or whatever demon it is that causes him to even have those tendencies. That anger that he has in his videos a lot of times goes away when we're in each other's presence. That's on purpose. That's for a reason. It's like we unlock this power in each other when we're in each other's presence that nobody else is able to. Nobody else does that for me. I don't know if that's the case for him, but I think it is. Because why would it be the case for me and not the case for him? Alignment, again. So, like, yeah. And I remember having the conversation about the guy that I told you guys about yesterday. Like, we were, again, on the beach, and we opened up to each other. I open up to people. I know a lot of people say you shouldn't do that. I do. And I told him, he was, like, asking me, like, you know, what we were talking about relationships, our last relationship, and I told him about that one. And he was like, what is it about him that you know? And I was like, I can't describe it. It's just who I was when I was with him. I've never been that person with anybody else. Like, he just brings out the highest form of me. And he was like, the guy from yesterday was like, no, that's just you. Like, because I told him, like, I would do this and I would do that, like, when I was with him. And he was like, how do you know that that's not just you? I know that that's not just me because I'm not that person when I'm with other people, only when I'm with him. So he has something to do with it. And just the level of forgiveness, the level of compassion, the level of understanding, the level of love that I was able to unlock when it came to him was just, it was surprising to me in a lot of ways. Like, one night he was sharing his truth with me, and he was saying, like, a lot of stuff that I would have judged other people for. Like, how he would be drunk, passed out in the street, and how he got arrested, and you know, I don't want to tell his business, but all of these things, right, that I would have like been like, oh no, there's no way I could ever be with you because you did whatever because of that. Like, and I remember him telling me, and I felt the feeling to judge him come up in me, and I felt the disgust, but my reaction to him was to put my hand on his thigh and just communicate acceptance, communicate like I'm just here holding space for you. And he was like, thank you, and we just had that kind of nonverbal communication, just that moment where we were just on the same level together. I've never had that with anybody else. I came close with one guy, but I've never had that with anyone. Because with the other guy that I came close to, I think he was my karmic partner. Um, with him, I'm trying to think like what the real difference would have been. Did I change in any kind of way that was positive? I learned a lot about myself, but I didn't grow closer to him through that. Like with Sora, the more that I learned about myself, the closer I felt to him. With Nick, I couldn't think of his name for a second. With Nick, the closer I felt to myself, the further I felt away from him. And that's the difference. And some people just pull me away from myself altogether. So, like, when I first met Nick, I had the feeling that maybe this could be the one, maybe this could be it. And so I was very open in that relationship. I was very, relaxed and feminine in myself. But the more that I did that, the more I just felt us drifting apart. Just naturally. It just naturally happened that way. I just felt myself like wanting to move further and further away from him. Like, and it was just like a natural, like, okay, shedding process. Just little layer by layer, just let go a little bit more. That's what karmic partnerships are for. It's to put your unhealed things in your face and help you to heal it. Like that person helps you heal. There are a lot of times when Nick and I would just be like sitting down talking, and or he would play something like music or something, and I'll just start crying out of nowhere, and it would just be just he helped me heal in a lot of ways. So that was definitely a karmic relationship. Um, and then with Soul he would do and say things, and I would just feel more connected to myself. Just more, it just always, from anything he did, whether negative or positive, it just always reminded me to make sure that I'm connected to myself, to make sure that I'm rooted, to make sure that I'm whole, to make sure that I'm filling myself up. And to me that's the type of relationship you want. Cause then, like I was about to say before I got into that whole thing, I've been in relationships where the closer I get to a person, the further I feel away from myself. Like, to the point where I feel like I'm losing myself. And that's how you know that that's a relationship you have no business in. And that would be like the last video that I talked about, when I talked about Sean, the guy that I lived with, and probably like he took care of me, but then afterwards, I felt nowhere. I felt like less and less and less and less of myself the longer that I spent with him. I even wrote a poem about you know loving myself so much, but feeling like somebody's taking me away from me. And so that's how I felt in that relationship. And with Ramarla, I don't know, like, and yeah, I'm saying people's name because whatever. They want to get mad at me, they can. It is what it is. Hopefully this is for them. This is like I'm saying their names so that they know that that specific spot is about them, and maybe it can bring some clarification and some healing for them. Perspective, whatever it is. And I know that there are people out there that will use that information to go after. I hope it doesn't. I hope the energy just doesn't create that type of situation. But so yeah, with Ramarla, I felt closer to myself, but it was a false version of myself. I didn't know who I was at that time. So there really wasn't anything to be brought closer to. Like, there just wasn't. I was a shell of who I. Yeah. So yeah, and then everybody in between was just lessons, people bringing me further from myself. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to style my hair. I'm gonna put it up in a bun. Because if it's looking like voluminous and thick like this now, oh my god, it's gonna get 10 times worse in that humidity. And I expected it to be more, like, for the waves to be more defined than this. Maybe I didn't braid it tight enough, or I didn't do. Okay, they're more defined than I thought. When you get closer, you can see. But it's looking way more healthy than it was before, and the ends are looking good. So, mission accomplished. Um, but yeah, I think I said what I said about him in the other video, Sora, is so that people would leave him alone. So he can come back to me, because we're supposed to be together. And that selfishly, like me trying to rush along the process, because I don't know if I mentioned this before, but he did tell me that he got confirmation that we would reunite in 5 years, and that's supposed to be in 2025. And I told him to his face, I'm not waiting 5 years. And I didn't lie about that, because I'm not a patient person. I'm patient when it comes to certain things, to things that I don't think that I have control over. But I have control over whether or not I wait. Now, whether or not you wait, okay, I can have patience with that. Like, I have patience with things that don't have anything to do with me, like I said, that are not in my control. So, other people's actions, when something is going to happen, like, I have patience with that. But when it comes to something that I can have control over, or trick myself into thinking that I can have control over, because really and in reality, it's all the opposite way. You need to have patience with everything because nothing is in your control. Even me waiting, I'm being forced to wait inadvertently. Even when I said to him I'm not waiting, and when I went and I dated whoever and I did whatever and I'm moving on and I'm not focused on him, I'm still being forced to wait. I just hope, like, please. No, I don't want to wait until 2025. Even though that's 2 years away and the time is flying. Like, we're already halfway through 2023. So 2025 is right around the corner. But yeah, I just, even if we have to wait to like be together, I just wanted to talk to him. Like, I just want him to communicate with me so I can stop feeling, because I feel everything. Like, everything he's going through, I feel it. And it's like, we have to wait to be together, but we don't have to wait to talk to each other. Like, anyway, um, I think I'm gonna end it here because, yeah. Ah, good stuff. Till next time, guys. Peace out.